It is our pleasure to be joined by a man you can see on College GameDay. You may have heard of it. You can also see him on SportsCenter. May have heard of it. Stanford Steve is in the house. What's going on, big guy?
Gentlemen, happy holidays. Awesome to be back with you. I, we'll get into it, but the whirlwind of this season is definitely it's sunk in now that we're in bowl season heavy duty, and but it's awesome to be on with you guys for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to take stock of a season where you got a team in the playoff whose coach was barely with them this year. You've got like transfer portal stuff going crazy right now. It's college football is as weird as it's ever been.
No doubt, and like it's so good you pointed that out because I'm watching these games now. And, Minnesota, that story's out. Like, I hope this kid plays well. They had to give him 30 grand to play quarterback because they didn't have another one because everybody left. And then the idea that you're in the portal, but you're going to play in the bowl game, I don't know how that resonates. I mean, guys, we grew up in the locker room. Like what? I mean, bowl games were the best weeks of my college life. And now you have guys opting out to go in the portal and leave and not go to them. Then you have guys that are, I'll play, but I'm not going to be here after the game. Like the whole mindset of this is totally weird. Weird. You said it. Just weird to me. But we do have plenty of teams with motivation. I look at a team like Missouri who took, over exceeded expectations, and now they get a chance to play Ohio State in a big time bowl game. Like they're going to be, they're going to be ready. You obviously got two, incredible games for the playoff. So I'm really interested to see how these teams have handled the weeks after the season and now bowl games and moving forward, not knowing what rosters are and all that stuff.
I definitely, we've got you on to preview the semifinals, but before we dive into both of those games, what has it been like, right? Part of college game day, right? You take over, you're there at the desk, you're on the set. Like what has that change been like for you? Because now, I mean, you're on college game day every weekend. That's a big damn deal, man.
Yeah, well, the turnover was something that I was expecting to be different. I'm a night guy, working with Scott at SportsCenter. We're midnight Eastern, we're live every night. And then to turn around and be the morning guy. And it still sticks in my brain. The first week we're in Charlotte and everybody's like, oh, neutral crowd, it'll be fun, it'll be Charlotte, it'll be hot. And we literally were staying over across the street from our set. And I'm the new guy, so I got the early SportsCenter hit at 7:30 in the morning. And the sun's barely up, but the DJ's rocking with music. Like it is a party right there at 7:30. And just on that whole walk over, hearing music, hearing the crowd noise, hearing North Carolina and South Carolina do their chants at that early in the morning. And then I'm getting mic'd up, and it's like, all right, you got to get ready to talk live on TV. Like it was just a total 360 from what, or 180 from what I'm accustomed to, as Scott and I are in a studio and no one's in there, and we're wondering if anybody's watching that show. To hey, these people need you to perform right now. So the idea of going from a night guy to a morning guy was, I mean, that we hit that thing running quick, but to the energy of that show, what it brings, along with the people at the set, the students, the fan bases, no matter what it is, they're there before we are. Seeing people, get in line in Seattle. We get done on Friday, with our college football live and different SportsCenter tapings at, I think it was 4 o'clock local, and the line's already started. It's raining. Like these kids are sleeping outside to get up, or I don't know if they got up, but they may have just stayed up. And we're on the air for game day, and I'm out there at, I think, God, what time was that tape? 4:30 in the morning, to get that thing going, and it's rocking. I mean, there's not a place to stand on the quad, and again, it's misting, it's not great conditions, but to see that go out west, and feel that, Washington, I've always said, is the loudest place I ever played in. With all the science and the overhangs, and when Washington's rocking, they got it. And just to see it like that fan base is all the way in. And I've always thought the world of them. That Pacific Northwest, I saw with the Seahawks game a couple weeks ago, and I finally figured it out. Like, they don't care what the conditions are because they're so used to it. And I talk to people that go and play there, like even guys in the Eagle side, they're wondering what gloves they're going to wear, long sleeves, or we're going to go, thermal underneath. Like, that whole week, all you're thinking about is, what am I going to wear for the game? And these people just show up in a t-shirt and then throw, a slicker on, and they're ready to go. So to see all of that in week after week after week, is been absolutely astounding. But the whole thing that helps and drives it is the energy. No matter where you look, it's just a genuine energy that you don't get on a daily basis, especially not in a studio in Washington, D.C. with Scott at midnight. You got to create your own energy and excitement, So that's what it's been. The guys have been incredible of accepting me in and bringing me along for the ride. So I can't wait to get to Pasadena. We got 2 shows on Saturday and Monday to get this thing cranked up, and we'll hit it running.
It looks like a well-oiled machine. Now, I know you're in the fire. There's chaos everywhere. There's crowd. Are there any behind the scenes things of total panic? Because whenever you guys are, it looks great. Everyone looks like they're right there in their element. But I gotta imagine every now and then behind the scenes, there's some stuff that's just going crazy.
No doubt. And I think that has to do more with the truck, the production guys in the truck back there, where we don't hear it. They press a button to talk to us, but when we're not hearing it and we're on the air, whether it's breaking news and Thamel's got an injury going, or, an interview, a live person's not ready to go, it's like, all right, keep going. But they do a great job. We do have a really structured deal. We start on Monday morning. We have a meeting on Zoom with everybody on it. And then, we start getting ideas. Our features people are weeks ahead of us, looking at the schedule. Hey, we could be here. Let's do this piece on so-and-so. So, we do have a rundown has structure in it. So based off of, going in at 9 a.m., we know what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, the way, guys are sitting out on days of games and injuries day to day, or, a home team that has an injury, you don't know until he does warm-ups. Like that stuff is full go. And that's why, I mean, Reese Davis, what he does with no prompter, or, just his own self-written notes, is still amazing to see in person, the way he could quarterback that thing. When you got all us characters up there, and, we're trying to figure out where we are, and he's just right there. That steady guy, that keeps us in line and makes sure we're off the air when we're supposed to be. That gets a little chaotic too with the picks at the end. But no, there's a couple, I sit right in Herbie's line of vision. So there's a lot of, eyes opening at each other when something gets said in our ear, or somebody's not ready to go, or, somebody calls something on the show. But that's good. And yeah, it's a learning experience. I've worked with Scott for so long that we know each other inside and out. And that was my thing. Like, when am I going to chime in here? And Herbie's done a great job of bringing me in on certain conversations and get my opinion in there. So it's been a whirlwind, but I guess I keep going back, energy, but fun. I mean, there's nothing better than being up there and talking ball with the guys. It's the best thing we have.
You've experienced a lot of great environments now in your career as a player, and now doing what you do. Ran into you on the sideline of the Cotton Bowl at OU, Texas this year. What do you think about that game, especially this one in particular? This one was a great year to be there, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic finish, especially if you are Sooner alums like us. But what did you think of that entire experience?
Well, I never got to check back with you. I needed to check your energy level after that game. You were that sideline was going, boy.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. It was to be around two of them, that was my first one, the Cotton Bowl. I mean, the State Fair right there, that whole day before, leading up with people coming around, us going out and having fun, doing the different games and stuff. But to hear everybody say it's 50-50, is one thing. But then we're down there for the last hour. The field goal kick kid comes out in the middle of the warm-ups, and Sark's down there watching it. Venable's got his guys going. The alumni from both, Boz walking around doing his whole thing, and with his intimidation factor, where he just looks you in the eye, and you're like, wow, that was my guy growing up, and here he is on the sideline getting his guys ready. But to hear about it being 50-50, but then to be in it. And here, I mean, no matter what happens, that stadium's rocking, and it's a lot like the SEC title game. To be there this year for the first time with Alabama and Georgia and those brands that are up there with Texas and Oklahoma. But to hear, no matter what happens on a play, it's going to be loud. And then when the momentum swings in that Texas-Oklahoma game, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, the way I believe he's still the only person. No, Wyoming had one guy run for 100, but to see him just say, this is what I got to do to get my team to win, and take the ball and run for over 100 yards. That was incredible to see that. And like, again, the momentum swings, the band's going, the sidelines are just as intense as there is. Was really, really cool to see. And then to see, all right, we know the game was set up, whoever had the ball last, and then, all right, Oklahoma's got it. Here we go. And they go down and get the game-winning field goal, and to see that scene after it was really, really cool. Not often do we get there and the games live up to it, guys. We do this whole pregame the week up, game day the morning of, and then to get a game that lives up to the expectation was something that stood out for sure out of all the rest of them.
No, you got a good close look at Texas, and they've made their first college football playoff. Texas, Washington. I think that's going to be a great game. Texas, I mean, both of these teams really battle tested. You got to see the OU Texas game, and obviously they went down to Tuscaloosa. What do you think? Texas, Washington, it looks like it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I can't wait to see how this plays out, because in my opinion, I think it's two of the six best play callers in the sport. When you look at Sark and Grubb, and when you look at Texas, seeing those guys, I mean, being on the field, you said it in Tuscaloosa, watching that D-line warm up, I'm like, oh my God, like that, it's just war daddies. The size, the speed, and the effect they have on the game. And that's why I always say, you need to be a great team in college football. Your defensive line and your O-line have to travel. They have to travel and play. Those are the things that you don't see a lot when teams go on the road. Those teams, if they have a weakness, they get exposed. And to see Texas dictate tempo, whatever you wanted in Tuscaloosa, was really eye-opening. But when you look at the matchup, I look at Washington as a team that's finally healthy. They ran a gauntlet of a schedule. When you look at those teams, you go to USC, you still got to deal with Caleb Williams. They get that, in the rain against Oregon State, who's a hungry team who's always, had that little brother mentality against you, and you do whatever you got to do to win that. You win your rivalry game, and then to go and win the Pac-12 championship as an underdog against a team no one thought you were going to beat for a second time. I think it was just a tribute to them, but I think the health of them was huge. When you look at the receivers, they got 3 NFL guys, and Penix has been good. That offensive line, the history of the Joe Moore Award in the playoff has not been good, but I will take my shot with this Washington team because I do believe in what they are. There's a real continuity with that, and I look at diving in. 3 of the 4 teams, the offense coordinators are O-line coaches. That's a cool thing to see. I know Sark calls the plays, but Flood is the OC there at Texas. But I think Washington has what you want to go against Texas. Texas is going to have to play a true freshman at safety, true freshman at corner. Both great players, plenty of experience. They still are true freshmen. And Washington has guys on the edge. And the other thing with Washington, as I don't know how effective they're going to be, but there's a balance to that offense with Dylan Johnson. Averaged almost 6 yards a carry in this last 6-game stretch where he was finally healthy. And you really saw that against Oregon, where they wore him down, and when they had to run the clock out, they gave him the ball and they got it done. So I like Washington in this game. Their defense is going to have to handle those momentum swings. I would imagine Texas is going to have more of the fan base there, so it'll be louder when Texas is doing things well in New Orleans. But I do believe in Washington and Penix in this offensive game plan that they will bring to the table, which they need to be, multifaceted. They need to have balance, because if you let Texas line up front and they know what you have to do as far as down and distance, and they can predict what's going to happen, they got to stay out of those situations. But I'll take Washington in that game.
What type of game are you expecting between those two teams? Over under is 63 and a half.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because Washington, they can strike so quickly with those wide receivers that you mentioned, but Texas also has that element to them.
Yeah.
Do you think it just comes down to kind of how Ewers plays at the quarterback position for Texas?
No doubt. No doubt. I think it's a monster spot I look at Ewers. I think Penix is going to play well no matter what happens. We've seen him in circumstances like this, but with Texas, Ewers, missing some time, didn't get the full slate. So when it comes to postseason awards, he's not up there. But when you look at arm talent, game plan, balance of offense, I know they lost the running back, but they have guys. Stark has done a great job recruiting. They have two guys that come in and they don't lose a beat with that. But I look at Ewers with that combination of the offensive line. How much are they going to spend on, Sark loves those play action, long developing plays. Are they going to have time to do that? Because Washington has two, NFL guys all coming off the edge with Trice and ZTF. So when you look at Texas, again, them with the balance, you can't be in predictable situations in games like this, because the teams that you're playing against are good enough to take advantage of knowing what you need to do in those, a third and long or second and long, stuff like that. So Ewers, yes, a lot on his plate, but again, Sark, I never worry about, a game plan. But I feel like Washington has a couple more playmakers, and that is the difference. I mean, it's definitely going to be more high scoring than the other game. When you look at what those two teams bring to the table as far as a defensive mindset. So yeah, I mean, being at both Washington and Oregon games, 36-33, both games into 30, I could see that. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody scores 40 in one of those games. But again, the momentum swings and being able to handle that, I feel like Washington's been tested more than Texas, and that's another reason I like them.
What do you think about the quarterback battle? I've taken some heat for it, whatever, but I just think Quinn Ewers is okay. I think he's got a really good play caller. I think he's got a great group of skill position players around him. He'll make some nice throws every now and then when things are on schedule. But outside of that, I just think he's okay. And I think Penix is excellent. Am I crazy that I think that there's a pretty large discrepancy between the quarterbacks, that Washington is quite a bit better, and ultimately that's maybe oversimplifying, but that could be the difference in the game?
I feel the same way. Like I said, I think we were talking to Scott on the plane the other day. Who would you rather have, Penix or Ewers? And it wasn't even close. We both said Penix. But I will say, with this time in prep, Ewers is going to be set up to be successful. Now, when you get on the stage, what do? You got all the prep. You had plenty of practice. You watched every single game of them this season on tape. What do you do in these circumstances? Early on in the third down, do you take a chance and try to get a ball? I mean, he knows how strong his arm is. We know how strong it is. Does he gamble and take that chance to get a ball in there on a third down, or does he throw it away and play field position early on when teams are still trying to feel each other out? That's what I want to see on Ewers, because we haven't really seen it. The Big 12 game, the title game, they did whatever they wanted against Oklahoma State. You don't really get to factor that in. But when you look at the games that. They build up big leads, and then they've held on. When you look at some of those games late, whether it's going to Ames, I'm trying to think who else came back against even the Houston game was weird, and I believe that's the game he got hurt too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think seeing Ewers on this stage, with what's on the line, this is something we haven't seen. Whereas Penix, I feel like we've seen more of him because he's probably played more college football than anybody not named Bo Nix. So no, I think all eyes are on Ewers. If they're going to win this game, it's going to be because he played well. And they're confident, talking to people around him because they're around him every day. Us out here, we turn on the TV on Saturday, and that's what we see. So I'm with you there. I want to see what Ewers does on this stage.
So it seems like you like Washington in the Sugar Bowl. Looking at the Rose Bowl,
yeah,
I think this is where the conversation starts. Steve, do you think Michigan can bully Bama at the line of scrimmage?
No, I don't. But I will say what I think the key to the game is Michigan's going to have to do something they haven't done all year, and it's not to their fault. They haven't had to because of the teams they've played, but they're going to have to throw the football. They're not going to be able to line up. They'll get creative in the run game. They'll get your pin and pulls going. They'll mix in, some zone. I think the injury of Zinter, losing him, being there at the Ohio State game was a huge factor. I don't think this Michigan offensive line is close to what they've been the last couple of years. And when you look at Alabama, they got difference makers up front. Dallas Turner's the real deal. Coming off the edge, Braswell is as strong as a kid as I've ever seen. I got to see him play. He's from Baltimore. Went to St. Francis. I remember him in high school, but just stupid strong dude that you get coming off the other edge. And I really, really like Alabama's secondary. There's a lot of conversation going in the SEC title game. Whose secondary would you rather have, Georgia or Bama? I was on Bama's side. I thought Texas, when they got them, they schemed them up. And in order to beat a Saban team, you got to take shots. You can't line up. Arjun, all right, let's see what we do on third down. You have to be able to take shots over the top, and I thought they did that to Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think Arnold's a better corner than he is. I know he's got the name and all that stuff, but when you look at a true freshman in Downs, who I think is just spectacular as a safety, I mean, an ultimate quarterback back there making plays. I feel like Michigan hasn't seen this kind of balance on defense. But again, you have this time to prep. Harbaugh's been really good at, just drawing up, self-scouting, right? As much as you watch the tape, you go back and watch, all right, what are our tendencies that when we get into a 3rd and 4, what's our number one play? What's a little, change up that we could throw with, say the same formation that we could get, an advantage of, going weak side or running a bootleg off of a run play. That's where Michigan has to be creative because when you look at it, J.J. McCarthy on this stage last year had 2 cataclysmic pick sixes against TCU. Those are why they didn't win that game. And now I can't imagine how long this year has been for him to get back to this stage and prove that wasn't him. That was a young kid on that stage for the first time. So I think a lot is on McCarthy. I think he has the ability to extend plays, and I think he's going to need to do that. Whether it's getting running for a third down or extending a play and buying time to let another guy get open. I also think their tight ends are a huge factor in what they do. And I look for against Ohio State, they got those guys loose for some huge third downs where we hadn't seen it all year because they were able to run the football. So I think getting creative in the run game and using the tight ends in the pass game where they could slip guys out when it looks like it's a run are going to be huge factors for Michigan to have success on offense.
Yeah, sometimes you never know. You kind of go round and round in your head over some things, but is it a problem that Michigan hasn't really been tested? And I know that Ohio State game was close late, but I mean, they have to be incredibly uncomfortable if they get behind
No
a
doubt.
couple of scores, and that can happen. I mean, I don't
Yep.
think it's going to be some high scoring game, but does the fact that they haven't really been tested this season, is that something that hurts them going in?
I think it does. Now it's a credit to them. Again, I keep saying I don't want to take anything away from them. They've done what they've had to do to get to this position. But when you factor in, like you just said, they haven't been tested fully or multiple times even, and then you factor what's on the other side and who's going to be challenging them. Going back, I think the best quarterback they played is Leah Tagovailoa from Maryland. I really like go through the schedule. There's not a quarterback on there now. When you factor in the athlete that Jalen Milroe is, I don't know how you prep for it. And when you get down to it and you line up, there's nothing you could do to prep for it because he's as different of a player as they've seen in 13 games. And when you look at, everybody was making fun of Georgia's schedule going through the year. I kept looking at Michigan's. I'm like, who's Michigan played? I get it. The Big Ten's down. But when you get to this decisive of a game in a circumstance, you got to have a lot of trust in yourself. And I'm sure Michigan does. But what's your plan B when what you've done doesn't work? And that's what I wonder about in the bowl pro. Like, all right, hey, how do we create for this situation? Because when you line up and it's a third down and that quarterback can run as well as anyone on the field, and it's a big time situation in the game, I don't know how you go about that. Do you account for more guys? Because then they have guys that could get open on the back end. And I think what's different about him is he throws a great deep ball. It's probably the best ball he throws. So I think Tommy Rees has done a great job in developing him and, being there, after the Texas game. I mean, he didn't play well, the bench, whatever, all that thing played out. To see him take the steps and then be in Atlanta and see the confidence he played with. He thought he was the best player on the field. You saw that the first couple series. So Michigan, in an idea of how they prep for a player like Milroe, that's the one that would scare me for Michigan.
So sounds like you're on Bama in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, we're to that point, right, Gabe, where it's been so long that you're like, all right, maybe I should start thinking about the other side of this game. But I mean, all the cliches, all you want. I just feel like Bama has the advantage. Now going in and diving into the numbers, I thought it was interesting how many guys Michigan has played up front on the defensive line, because that's what's happened a lot in these Big Ten versus SEC games. Though either side of the line of scrimmage gets worn down. Michigan should not get worn down on the defensive side. I do expect their defensive line to play well against that offensive line of Bama, but can they do it for a whole 60 minutes? Because they haven't had to. That's where you start seeing it. I mean, that's where the SEC schools with their depth have made a difference in the playoff games playing against these other conferences. So, yeah, Michigan being favored still puzzling to me. I would make the game a pick 'em. I really would. I think that Michigan does bring to the table, like I said, with that defensive side of the ball, a different type of Big Ten team we've seen. And, last year means nothing, but Ohio State played their best game of the season and lost to Georgia. I mean, C.J. Stroud was absolutely incredible in that game. And you go back and you look at the NFL guys Georgia had, and you see how well Ohio State plays. Then they lose Harrison, and it's just you being in that building, you just feel the air coming out of the ball as the fourth quarter goes on because of Georgia and all their players they had. So Michigan playing with a lead would be huge. If they can hang around, and they're going to need at least stay one possession. If this gets to double possessions, or double-digit score, I think Michigan's in trouble because, again, it gets back into the defense knowing what you want to do because you're down and you're trailing and you want to throw the ball more, and that's not your strength. So I think Michigan playing with a lead would be huge, but I still think the athleticism of Alabama and their difference makers they have on both sides of the ball is the difference in the game.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it matters necessarily, but is because I think all of the matchups could be great for the national championship. is there one that you would prefer to see the two teams in the title game for, I don't know, storylines, whatever reason? Is there a championship game that you would like to see?
Well, I'll be selfish here. I bet the matchup of Alabama and Washington for plus 650. So I would really like to see that matchup. No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously everybody's calling for the Texas Bama rematch, which would be great in Houston and knowing the proximity of those schools. But I would like to see DeBoer in this Washington team get it done. I think they've found themselves. They believe in what they are. DeBoer's I don't want to say he's not nonchalant, but he's very even keel. And then to see being when we were there and seeing the way their teams practice, he's a different guy with his team, and that's the cool stuff. I getting to see those guys not in front of a camera is always the most fun to me. So I would. Yeah, purple and crimson in Houston, that'd be a good mix, I feel like, for the people of Houston.
You're a Pac-12 guy,
Yeah.
and is there a part of you that's like, hey, the Pac-12's going away, I would like to see Washington to get to play for it all? And then does it also make you angry? No,
It sucks, Gabe.
Yeah.
It really does, man.
I hear you, man.
Talking to guys around, old teammates around the holidays and just remembering, going to I mean, my senior year, we go to Tempe. We lose to Washington, but Washington had a loss to Oregon. So we got one loss. We need Washington to lose again. And we go to Tempe. Todd Heap's playing for Arizona State. And we know if we go there and win, UCLA beat Washington earlier in the day. They wouldn't say the score in the stadium. And like all our older players are coming up like, hey, Washington lost. I'm like, get the hell out of here. Like, and then, that flight home knowing we had to beat Cal in order to go to the Rose Bowl, and that was going to be our last game. Like, that's the stuff. Like, I just remember every conversation, that plane ride home, the hotels we stayed at, going to the Rose Bowl for 2 weeks. And just living a dream. I said it earlier, bowl games were my favorite part of college. Everybody there. You don't have to worry about class or school. Everybody, hanging out, where we going to dinner, things like that. Going to Corvallis, Oregon, and hearing those people yell at and call us smart kids. Like, that's the stuff that it just sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Thinking about it. And this is what, like, about the playoff with the, whatever, Alabama, Florida State thing, whatever people have said, this is what we were supposed to have for 10 years. There's only 4 spots. There's 5 Power 5 conferences. And going back to the Pac-12, they haven't been deserving of being in the conversation. But when you had everybody with a team that was a candidate for those 4 spots, someone was going to get left out and be heartbroken. It was supposed to happen every single year, and it happened the first year and the last year. That's just the makeup of college football. When we talk about, going back, what was it? The first one, we had 3 SEC teams in the top 4, with Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, and all that happened. So, but I just think, like, this is what it was supposed to be all this time. And I guess it is a shame that we didn't get more qualifying teams. The Pac-12 beat up on themselves, and then out of conference, they didn't play well. And, the Big 12 had some down years with that. And then, they always had a good team, but you weren't sure how good they were because the rest of the conference was down, and the coaching changeovers, all that factored into it. But it's just, like I've said for 4 weeks, there's only 4 spots and there's 5 Power 5 conferences. Someone was going to get left out. So, yeah, in a way, I would like to see the Pac-12 be there in that last stage.
This is the last one I got for you, man. You have always been more than willing to share your picks, whether that's TV, podcasts. You've always put them out there. How different is it now that graphic pops up every single time you got to do your picks on game day? Has that escalated, like, your interactions on social media? I can only imagine what people say when your picks are out there for the entire world to see like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. The first year, I think I've been doing it 8 years, is the first year I'm under 500, and it's the first year of my game day. And we know how many eyeballs game day gets. But I'll probably say I've spent less time on social media knowing what people like to say. I mean, it's just gambling Twitter is so amazing to me because it's everybody could pile on the loser after the fact, right? Like, I'll make picks in the 9 o'clock hour, and I won't hear a word until that pick is lost and the game goes final. Like, you had 6 hours to make a comment, but now you wanted to see how it played out. And then it's funny, the other night, like, I'm doing these things for ESPN Bet, and I give out Georgia Tech. I'm like, I really like Georgia Tech. They're an underdog. I would take it plus the points. I'd take a money line, whatever. I send it out. Not a word. Not a word. It wins. Not one. Hey, nice pick. Not one. It's just amazing to me how much people just want to pounce on it. And it's fun. I wish I could be better. And I'll always say, as Scott does, they're free. We're not charging you for them. It's something that we like to have some fun with. And it did go accordingly. I mean, I ended up doing 4 picks, I think, for the last, gosh, 7 or 8 8 or 9 weeks. And the amount of times I went 2-2, it was just I couldn't get into that under 500. It was, I think I went like 6 straight weeks of being 2-2. So it was we got a taste of social media reality. And there's not a lot of good stuff out there. So I will warn you guys, if you are thinking about doing that, just be ready to hear nothing good and only the bad. But I do appreciate everybody listening and watching.
You're the man. It's always fun catching up, man. Hopefully we'll get to see you on an SEC sideline or two next year. Though you making the trip, though you making the change, should be interesting, man. You're the best. You're killing it. Appreciate the time.
I appreciate you guys, man, and what you guys do. And yeah, let's see how these SEC teams are going to do coming to Norman also.
Yeah.
It's not about you going on the road.
Not worried.
They got to come
fun.
to Norman. Let's see that. I still think it's my favorite pregame hype video before they come out in the field. That thing is as good as it gets, and feeling that, and I can't wait to get back there and feel and see that, because it's as special. Everybody talks about you guys going there, but they're also getting a damn good one with you guys coming in, and we'll see how it all plays out. That's for sure. These schedules are fascinating to me, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. And let's get some guys out of the portal, and let's get that thing closed so coaches could actually work on practicing with the guys they have in their locker room. That's the stuff I'm looking forward to. So I appreciate you guys. Have a happy new year, and always here whenever you need me.
Appreciate you, Steve. Thanks, man.